Anyone who thinks Micro Four Thirds is dead, well, they're dead wrong. I think Micro Four Thirds still has plenty of life in it, but to be fair and not be like part of the cottage industry that either hates or loves Micro Four Thirds, I want to give some counterpoints at the end of the video as to why you might not want to get into the world of Micro Four Thirds cameras. But let's talk about why I don't think Micro Four Thirds is dead. Why do so many people think Micro Four Thirds is dead? Well, a lot of people feel that because full frame sensors are getting so good, the advantages of having the smaller sensors in the Micro Four Thirds systems and the fact that the Micro Four Thirds systems were more mature, they're kind of fading away due to the great competition in the full frame world. And the full frame look is nice, more depth of field, better low light performance on average because of bigger pixels, the potential to have more resolution on bigger sensors as well. All those are great advantages of a full frame camera, and it's quite hard to argue with the images that a lot of full frame cameras produce. And arguably it looks better than the GH5 or the GH4 would ever, with a lot of these new full frame cameras like the Sony A1 or the A7S III or even the A7 III to a certain extent. But there are still a lot of strong arguing points because image quality isn't everything. And a lot of these camera reviewers do act almost in a way that image quality is everything. Look, Fan Ho wouldn't catch his street photos if his camera didn't feel good in the hand. Alright? He could have shot his wonderful street photography on a crappy Polaroid camera, Instax Polaroid camera designed for, basic bitches and shooting photos at parties that print out and you shake the photo, and it will still be wonderful because he's a great photographer. So photography or filmmaking, image quality isn't always king. Look, if image quality was always going to be king for everything, everyone and their mother shooting YouTube videos, shooting films will be using like a Sigma FP at the very least. But no one uses that camera because it's a clunk to use, it's a mess to use, you need to rig it up, it's troublesome. So there's a lot of factors at play here, and I want to point out the certain factors that make Micro Four Thirds a good option for a lot of people and why some people should stay at Micro Four Thirds. So first reason is definitely Micro Four Thirds is all you need. If you're just a normal consumer, just a hobbyist, it's not worth the extra kind of money and extra hassle of swapping systems or getting a fancier full frame system. Sure, if you are really into the full frame look, it makes sense, but it's really all you need if all you want is to take nice photos of your friends, of events, for things for Instagram, it's all you need is that. Why? Because even though the sensor is small relative to APS-C and full frame, it's still a much bigger sensor than your phone. It's still a much bigger sensor than your average point and shoot with its 1-inch sensor. And a lot of these Micro Four Thirds cameras were designed to be pro cameras or at least semi-pro bodies. So as a result, you have a lot of features that, cheaper full frame cameras, cheaper APS-C cameras don't for a cheaper price. And it's frankly all you need. Like if you're just shooting pictures of your dog, and if you really wanted bokeh, you can always slap a fast prime lens on your Micro Four Thirds camera. And if you didn't give a damn about bokeh, it will give you great, wonderful images if you have decent lighting. So there's no real point to upgrade. It's really enough to get nice photos. There's so many great photos taken on Micro Four Thirds systems. If you argue otherwise, you're just flat out wrong. Okay, number 2 is definitely size. Portability is king to a lot of people, especially hobbyists. Like if you're an average hobbyist, you're buying a big bulky camera, you're less likely to go out and shoot with it, and that makes it less worth it to buy a full frame camera, even if they were both the same price. Size is important because portability is important, convenience is important to making someone shoot more. And if you want to have more pleasure and have more fun with your cameras, if you want to go out more with your cameras, if you want to be encouraged to shoot more with the camera, having a small compact camera that is convenient to bring out just makes sense to me. And sure, the GH5 is big, the GH5S is quite big, the G9 also quite big, but you have to factor in the sizes of the lenses as well. Sure, there are big bulky lenses that are as heavy as G Masters, but the thing is, at the end of the day, if you have a complete lens kit on a Micro Four Thirds system and you have a complete lens kit on a full frame system, I can assure you that the Micro Four Thirds system is pretty much going to be smaller every single time. And this size kind of thing is even more important for people who are doing wildlife or sports photography, especially wildlife, because you're likely going to be hiking and you don't want so much weight in your bag. Because of the 2x relative crop factor on Micro Four Thirds sensors, the smaller sensor, you're going to be able to use a 300mm instead of a 600mm lens. And because the lens is smaller and shorter and has to cover a smaller image circle, it's likely to be as well engineered or better engineered for the same price, or if not much less. If you look at the high quality 300mm prime from Olympus for like Micro Four Thirds, compared to the 600mm f4 from Sony, the G Master Prime lens, you will notice that there is like a 5 times price difference between the two. When the image quality on very similar resolution and similar megapixels, you'll actually notice that the image quality is comparable. And that's just the way things are. When you have to focus more light onto a bigger surface area, it's just going to be more difficult to engineer, because engineering big, large pieces of glass to have great optical qualities is going to be expensive and difficult. And as a result, you're going to have not just more pricier lenses, but also bigger lenses because of its, because of the difficulty. And of course, that brings us to our next point, and that is price. Now, sure, brand new stuff, Micro Four Thirds can get pricey, but if you want to match quality for quality, spec for spec, it is often able to be much cheaper, even pure brand new compared to full frame. But this is not to mention the fact that there is a massive backlog of kind of secondhand stuff in the Micro Four Thirds world. This is a system that's been around for years and years and years, 10 years, 20 years. Okay, not 20 years, but 10 plus years at this point. So you've got access to a lot of old but high-end lenses, old but high-end camera bodies from the past that are Micro Four Thirds, and because they're old and people are jumping ship to full frame and all that, they're often very, very cheap. I bought my GH4, a very high-end camera that can shoot 10-bit 4K out to an external recorder, a feature that only started appearing like 2-3 years after the GH4 came out. Like, it cost me 250 Singapore dollars, which is insane. You slap a memory card in there and you have a very beautiful 4K or 1080p vlogging setup with a flip screen and a mic jack, and it's great for doing professional video already for such a cheap price. Because it's so old and everyone's leaving it, you can get a lot of stuff, deals secondhand, and brand new as well. It's still pretty reasonably priced, which is a great reason for an average consumer who's just a hobbyist to get into Micro Four Thirds. Now, why then should you not get into Micro Four Thirds? Because we got to make things fair, make things neutral in here. Well, one of the reasons that you might not want to get into Micro Four Thirds is if you are like brand new, you have no camera gear. Then yes, Micro Four Thirds isn't dead. It's far from the grave, but there's no arguing there's no way of arguing anything else except to say that there's no way else to put it except to say that Micro Four Thirds is an aging system. It is an older system, and in certain situations, it's definitely showing its limits. It's showing its, kind of what it can't do. And if you are someone getting into a new camera system and you can afford it, then full frame might be a better option, because investing the lenses now, you can keep them pretty much for a much longer period of time than you can expect to stick with Micro Four Thirds. Especially if you're planning to do paid work and pro work, because consumers do care about full frame and bokeh. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. Another reason is definitely if you are someone who is pro. If you are someone who is pro, you cannot afford to screw up a shoot. You need a camera that can do it all. You need a camera that you can save the footage from even in low light. Even if you can't light the scene ideally, you'll be fine because of how good the camera is. For those kind of people shooting that way, then you're going to want full frame, or you want a bigger sensor, APS-C and all that stuff. And another thing is definitely if you really want low light performance, then you're going to have to go with full frame cameras, which makes sense, I guess. Bigger sensor, more light input, but you have to make sure that the camera you choose is the right one, because if you go with like a Canon EOS RP, you're gonna have terrible low light performance anyway. So if you want good low light performance, make sure you get the right camera, no matter what the sensor size is. But generally, you'll be getting better low light performance with a bigger sensor. Most factors, if not all factors, elsewhere kept the same. Okay, so those are a couple of reasons that I just threw in there at the end to make the video a bit more balanced. What do you think about Micro Four Thirds? Is it dead? Is it a system that you love? Is it a system that you still mess around with? I personally have discovered that I love Micro Four Thirds a lot just because of its convenience and its price that I can get beautiful, wonderful cameras for, like the GH4 that I'm shooting this on for 250 Singapore dollars. It's cheap, it's convenient, it gets the job done. So pros and cons as with everything in life. I personally love Micro Four Thirds, and I think it's here to stay, especially in the world of cinema, because small sensors still have a lot of space to grow, and they're going to be able to grow and get more features much faster than a bigger sensor. So kind of give and take and all over the place, who really knows. I'm going to end this video off here though. Thank you guys so much for watching. I just upload camera videos on this channel and like vlogs and story time about like video production. And if you enjoy, make sure you like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye. When will the next video be? No idea. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. See you soon.